Very good morning, dear students. In today's session, I'm going to discuss about the data warehouse. So, what do you mean by data warehouse? So, data warehouse is a specialized and centralized repository for what? For in order to store your data. Okay. So, you all know that business analytics is nothing but the analyzing the data. So, if you want to analyze the data, first of all, you need some area to store it, right? So a data warehouse is a specialized and centralized repository for storing. Okay, and after storing you need to organize it, and you can able to organize your data in the data warehouse and manage. Data warehouse can able to manage a large volume of structured and sometimes even semi-structured data from various sources. You have gathered your data from various sources, right? Wherever you have gathered, you can able to store it in the data warehouse within your organization. So basically, this data warehouse is designed to support for the reporting, to support for the analysis, and to support for the better decision making need of your organization. So in what way it can able to do all these things? By providing you a unified or consistent and historical view of the data. So as I already told you, data warehouse is also, it also typically involves some other process for what? For a data extraction. It will be useful for you for the ETL process. ETL process, you'll be learning it in the upcoming classes. So ETL process is nothing but extracting the data, transforming the data, and finally loading into the data. So, and for this loading, in this ETL process, uh, uh, the data warehouse can be used for the process called as loading in the complete ETL process. So this ETL process it will be ensure the analyst that the data is clean, the data is consistent and ready for use for the business intelligence and data analytics applications. Okay. So whatever the data which you have stored in your data warehouse will be always ready for the final analysis, because it is getting into the inside the data warehouse after crossing the different stages. Like what are those stages? Those stages are like extraction will be happening before it enters into data warehouse, and the cleaning will be happening before it enter into data warehouse, and finally the extracted and the cleansed data will get into the data warehouse, and the whatever the data which will be available in this data house will always be ready for the analysis. So the data in the data warehouse is structured in a way that makes it easy to query. Okay, so the analyst can easily query the data and analyze it, and help and highly helpful. This kind of data which is stored in the data warehouse will be highly helpful for the analysis part, and it can able to gain some insight, and this kind of data can make informed decision based on their historical and the current data. So you need to know what this data warehouse can store. What it can store? It can store various kinds of data. Okay, it can store various kind of data, and one such data can be called as the historical data. So what do you mean by historical data? Historical data, as you all know, I believe, historical data is nothing but the past data records that provide a historical perspective on business activities and trends. Okay, so any past data can be called as historical data. Kindly give me a minute. Okay, the next one is the other kind of data can be called as customer data. Okay, so you all know that what do you mean by the customer data? Any information, any data which carries the information which is related to the customer can be called as customer data. Okay, so any information which is related to customer can be called as customer data. So what kind of information the customer data will possess? The customer data will possess the information about the customer, including their profile and their purchase history, their demographics, and their interaction with the company. Everything will be recorded in those customer data. So then the next data where which can be stored can be called as the product data. Okay, the next data where the data warehouse can be stored can be called as the product data. From the name itself, you can able to have some guess. What do you mean by product data? Any information or any details about the product or services offered by the organization. Okay, so what may be those? So it may be the attributes of the product or features or the prices of the product or the stock level. Okay, the demand of the product or what may be the supply of the product or the inventory level of the product. And the next one is the financial data. So finance is the backbone of any company. Every company should need to organize or manage and store the financial data without fail, right? So what do you mean by this financial data? So financial data will contain the information about the financial statement. Okay, and then budget data and other financial records such as income statement, balance sheets, and other cash flow statements. Okay, and the next important data of an organization which can be stored in the data warehouse is nothing but the operational data. So what do you mean by operational data? Operational data is nothing but it is related to the day-to-day operation of the business. So what are the day-to-day operations of the business? It can be the inventory level. Okay, it can be the shipping information, whether you have shipped the product or not, whether it has reached the particular place or not, where it is currently going, where the product is currently moving from which place to which place. Okay, it will give you the information about the shipping and logistics information and about the employees who are helpful for that operations. So now all the data regarding those employees will be recorded in that operation data. And the next important data in the business organization is nothing but the marketing data. So marketing, what do you know? What are the various functions of marketing? And so the marketing department may contain the information about the customer. So customer data belongs to this marketing department. Okay, and the advertisement, and then what are the sales promotions yeah, it has adapted, and what are the various kind of marketing campaigns the organization is coming up with, and what are the different kind of promotional activities it has taken so far, and what may be the demand for that particular product, for any product, what may be the customer behavior, what may be the customer preferences or taste. Okay, and everything which is related or to or relevant to the marketing department, that can be called as the marketing data. Okay, so all this type of data. So what can be stored in the data warehouse? Many varieties of data, such as the past data, and then customer data, finance data, human resource data. What do you mean by this human resource data? Any information which is related to employees, that can be called as human resource data. Okay, and then marketing, operational, every kind of information can be stored in this data warehouse. Okay. Okay, you need to know about the difference between the data warehouse and operational data warehouse. Okay, so what do you mean by data warehouse? Data warehouse are primarily used for storing the historical data. Okay, it is mainly meant for storing the historical data, and they are optimized for analytical and reporting purpose. So basically, they are designed to consolidate and organize the historical data, or otherwise called as the past data from various sources. Okay, so providing a structured view of past or sometimes the current data also, sometimes very rarely the current data also. It doesn't mean the data warehouse cannot able to store the current data. It can, but basically, or its priority will be for storing the past data only. While the data warehouse do store historical data, they may also contain some current data, especially if it is relevant for historical analysis and reporting. Okay, so hope you understood this concept. On the other hand, the operational data store, ODS, is specifically designed to store and manage current or near real-time operational data. That is the main difference. Okay, data warehouse is meant for maintaining the historical data, whereas this operational data store is specifically designed to store and manage current or near real-time operational data. ODS is used to support current business operations. What is happening right now? What can be done? What happened yesterday and what can be done for that today? Okay, so that any information which is related to current, okay, or real-time data, and through that real-time data, if you want to take some important decision, not for the future but for the present time period, then you can make use of this operational data to store your data. So ODS store, it can be otherwise called as ODS. ODS is basically used to support current business operations and provide a consistent and up-to-date view of data. Okay, for what? For operational needs. You want to know about the current data because you want to take some decision which is related to day-to-day operations. Okay, such as transaction process, customer interaction. Okay, yesterday your customer might have asked something, and the next day you need to fulfill their requirement, right? So this operational data store will be helpful for storing your current data, and finally it will be helpful for you to fulfill your day-to-day operations and fulfill your customer requirement on the day-to-day basis. So such as the transaction processing, customer interaction, and inventory management. For all these things, this operational data store will be highly useful. Okay. So some of the important keywords which is related to this data warehouse can be the structured data. Related, this data warehouse will be the relational databases are well suited for storing the structured data in a tables with rows and columns. So what do you mean by structured data? So relational databases are well suited for if you want to store your data in a structured format. Okay, that may be in the tables. Okay, with rows and columns. Okay, data warehouse often deal with this kind of structured data. Okay, what may be the example for those data, such as the sales record? Sales record will always be in the structured format. This sales record can be stored in the data warehouse. So data warehouse will always support the structured data in the data available in the tables with rows and columns, such as what are the examples? Some of the examples are such as sales data, customer information, and some of the historical data. Okay, and data warehouse also frequently use relational data modeling techniques like some star schemas and snowflakes schemas. All this concept will be learning in the advanced level subjects. Okay, so basically to organize and structure the data efficiently for analytical queries and reporting. And other important concept or keyword in this data warehouse is nothing but the ETL process. ETL process I have already discussed with you in my previous class. So ETL, how will you expand this? ETL, extract, transform, and load. ETL process is used to extract the data from source system and transform it as needed and load it into the relational database that serve as the data warehouse. And the next important key term in this concept data warehouse is the query and reporting. User can then use the SQL queries. So while talking about what type of skills that analyst should possess, I discussed with you in the previous class, the analyst should know about the structured query language. Okay, so users, business intelligence users can then run the SQL queries on the data stored in the relational data warehouse. Why need to use? They can use this SQL queries in order to analyze the data, to generate report and perform the data analysis. So in summary, data warehouses are best suited for historical data analysis and reporting, whereas ODS is designed for current and near real-time operational data to support day-to-day business activities. However, in some cases, data warehouse may include a small amount of current data for context or as a part of the ETL extract process, but their primary function is to store and manage only the historical data. So with this point, I want to conclude my today's session. Have a great day, dear students.